Now, disillusioned and disconnected. That's the focus of tonight's angle. All right, someone call Hakeem Jeffries. Alert the squad. With all the other news ricocheting around America, somehow this beautiful nugget got lost in the shuffle. The Democrat Party's approval numbers remain at a low point. Harvard-Harris has the survey, only 37% approved of Democrat performance. This is the worst number for Dems since March of 2018. So, look, as much as the media loves to dump on Trump, the Republicans, demonize Doge and Musk, the truth is, it's the Democrat Party that's on a cliff's edge. They have the legacy media, though. They have Hollywood. They have the federal judges. They have most of academia pushing for them. And they're still only at 37%. I mean, guys, that's Meghan Markle territory. So whatever happens in this Wisconsin race and the Florida race, Democrats just have a policy problem. Now, look at this map from the American Redistricting Project showing states that are projected to gain seats, the green, light green, versus those seats in the next census. All of them are run by Democrats. The ones in red and pink are going to lose seats. So California projected to lose 3 seats. New York projected to lose 2 seats. Illinois losing 1. Texas will gain 4. Florida projected to gain 4. These are facts, right? Projections, but based on the census. So the Democrats have no one to blame but themselves. Why? Because they could have turned California, it's supermajority, they run it, supermajority in the governor's race, Senate, House. They could have turned it into a showplace. But instead, it's a mess with a $46 billion budget deficit. They could have turned Connecticut, my home state, into a dreamscape for business. But instead, of course, businesses are fleeing there. Who wants to pay those taxes? And if they wanted to show us how they could do urban renewal, I mean, could they have fixed Baltimore? Have you been there lately? And I love Baltimore. If they wanted to showcase their great education, they could have transformed Chicago public schools. But guess what? They're among the worst performing in America. So they did none of the good stuff. Meanwhile, Florida, Iowa, Texas, Tennessee, South Dakota, I could go on, are chalking up one success after another. Economic booms, educational choice, tough on crime policies, all of this popular among working people. And by the way, all of them are things that Bill Clinton used to support. Remember, he worked to balance a budget with Republicans. He was tough on crime, cracked down on illegal immigration, and he didn't have an entire cabinet that was filled with people who hated America. Instead of common sense policies that appeal to a broad base of the working people of this country, Democrats spend their time fighting Trump's efforts to deport the most dangerous illegals.
I call on my colleagues right now to demand the return of people unlawfully taken to El Salvador on that so-called plane full of gangbangers.
Yeah, the liberals obsess over one Maryland migrant who was shipped to the Supermax prison in El Salvador.
What they're actually doing is sweeping up people based upon their appearance and not even going through the basic identity checks and due process.
This guy has no reason to be in a jail in El Salvador. He's only there because of Trump's policies.
Now that screams middle America. Now, not good if it was a mistake, but important to note, that guy was an MS-13 member, as court documents showed. So literally, Democrats spent more time talking about that guy than they ever did about Laken Riley or Jocelyn Nungaray, both brutally murdered by illegals. You want to know why they're at 37%? So somehow the party of FDR and Bill Clinton has become the party of AOC and Jayapal. Now, those two exist for protest. Because I'm telling you, if AstroTurf activism was an Olympic sport, they'd both be gold medalists. Congresswoman Jayapal is inviting you to her resistance lab.
We really need to help Americans understand what happens when democracies fall, when dictators take over. We've developed a curriculum where we help people understand how do you go after the pillars of support? How do you shift allies from being sort of passive opponents to being active supporters of taking down a dictatorship?
A curriculum? Wow, she's smart. I mean, this is all they know, right? They emote, they feel, they're outraged, and when they lose, democracy becomes a dictatorship. That's all you need to know. So they prattle on about environmental justice, the patriarchy, and reparations. discredited theories, and warmed over socialism. Nothing to improve the lives of everyday Americans. And again, nothing screams middle America like championing the cause of men who claim to be women and vice versa.
Part of the reason we're in the situation we're in the first place is because we weren't loud enough to fight for the trans community.
Trans liberation was never going to be won by capitalistic companies changing their logos to rainbow colors for the month of June. It's going to be won how it always has been won, by trans people and drag queens throwing bricks in the streets.
It's shocking that they lost the male vote by how much they did. But look, this is all a joke to JB.
I have to laugh when I hear the right wing carry on about the dangers of exposing kids to trans people or same-sex couples. And right now, it's drag queens reading books and transgender people serving in the military. But tomorrow, it's your marriage license and your job they want to take.
Oh, okay. And the best example of how tone-deaf Democrats are, their opposition to voter ID, which, by the way, is on the Wisconsin ballot tonight, as we just heard from Mike Tobin. While a staggering 84% of Americans support voter ID requirements, Democrats fight it tooth and nail. Everywhere it pops up, rallying to help defeat, at least temporarily, a Republican measure called the SAVE Act, which will require it nationwide. More on that later. New York AG Letitia James, oh, she's a fair one, says the SAVE Act will threaten voting rights for communities of color and women. Why oppose such a common sense measure, though? Because they want illegals to vote, that's why. There's no other logical reason. Elon Musk has said that. Of course, we've known that for many years. We could go on and on. Democrats defending Hamas, Democrats terrorizing Tesla owners, Democrats against parental rights. Robbie, don't worry, we won't tell your mommy that you're now Rebecca. None of this is popular. No wonder the elected Democrats are running to the courts and George Soros to save them, because they're on the wrong side of most issues that matter the most to Americans, yet they're laser focused on defending deviants, derelicts, deadbeats, and drug dealers, and that's the angle.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.